Hello, and welcome to the Great Game Debate Podcast, where friends come together to talk about video games and our lives. As always, I'm your host, Kaedhen. We unfortunately are not joined by Mr. Shakedown himself, Wes Bates, this week, but we shall carry on in his name. But of course, I am joined by none other than the godfather of the debate himself, Jonah Gomez. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, and I didn't bring the wizard robe. And
Yeah,
Mr. Crow is still the what'd you call him? The nameless king.
For now, until we come up with a good name.
The nameless king
is pretty good.
This is pretty good, yeah.
Good boss fight.
And of course, we are joined by the Saucy Aussie, our man in Australia, Stephen Beaumont. How you doing, buddy?
Good. It's good to be back. I've been missing you, lads. So
Yeah.
Let's get amongst it.
Heck yeah. And of course, this week we have the distinct honor and pleasure of being joined by our special guest, Mateo from the One Up Podcast. How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here. Your song is a bop. That little intro song. Love
Shout
it.
out to Mr.
Thank you.
If you need any projects.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll just jump right into the icebreaker. I hope you all stop by the Middle Ages and talk to your old friend Frog to pick up the Masamune, because it's time for the icebreaker. All right. Our question this week comes in from friend of the show and previous guest, Tongue Surgery, aka Kaedhen. Check him out. The question is, we, the four of us, are all trapped on the USG Ishimura. We don't remember how we got there. Butt naked. We have nothing. No gear. The four of us are running around with our hands covering our crotches like Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2. When we come upon a single plasma cutter and several magazines worth of plasma charges, only one of us can wield the plasma cutter. Who do we trust with this weapon to lead us and keep us alive? I think marksmanship training might come into play here. Any kind of training with industrial machinery.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. I definitely like. Although I have a history with like guns and stuff in my past, but like I know that Jonah has them, and I know that Mateo's from Texas, so I'm guessing you probably have some.
I've been to the range a time or two for sure.
Yeah.
So it's down between Jonah and Mateo. So would each of you like to make a case for yourself?
So what are your spreads like?
Which one of us is the best killer, I guess?
So I've got to say, like, in keeping true with like the One Up Podcast, Tony likes to introduce me as the Texan one without a gun, because I am not actually a gun owner, even though I live in Texas. I'm gonna have to defer to our down under buddy.
I am a gun owner, and I guess I've shot most recently. So
you play Call of Duty.
I guess what we've got to do is you've got to cut off some necromorph hands, so then we've got like little swords.
We got melee piercers, yeah. And Steven's the backup. You know, like if Jonah gets killed, then Steven gets the plasma cutter. Steven gets killed, Mateo gets the plasma cutter, and if Mateo gets killed, I just
we're all dead.
And eventually,
cry.
For the first several hours,
a good body wall.
The first several hours of this is just us running around naked though behind whoever has the plasma cutter.
Right? Yeah. All right. Well, you know, Dead Space is in the air. Callisto Protocol just came out. Dead Space 1 remakes coming up. What is that? January? I can't quite remember. So,
something like that.
Yeah, I think it is.
Right.
Yeah, right in that wave of survival horror. So thanks again, Kevin, for that one. So that will get right into our little interview we like to do, Mateo, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better before we carry on with the show. If you'd want to start out just with kind of like sort of an elevator pitch for the One Up Podcast, and maybe give us a little bit of history on, you know, how you guys form the podcast and what kind of stuff you do on it.
Absolutely, yeah. So the One Up Podcast has been this idea for a very long time. I've known these guys for 15 plus years at this point. So we spent a lot of time gaming together. We've had our falling outs and kind of came back in and out of each other's lives. I think Pucho just talked on recently on one of our episodes about how he didn't have a PlayStation for a while, so he just kind of vanished from everyone's radar because that's the main way that all these guys game together. So we had talked about having a podcast for years and years and years, and then COVID happened, and we had some time to actually put into this project. So that's kind of where it came from. The idea behind it is we're kind of a debate podcast. We're definitely but like a little bit more like a shouting and yelling at each other kind of podcast, but with love mostly.
Yeah.
But mostly
the idea behind it has been kind of having like the tough talks and talking about things to kind of better yourselves and better your understanding of the world, and talking about difficult things. I mean, we're still kind of trying to find our stride a little bit sometimes, because I mean, this last episode we did a 20 questions game about video games. We talked about the death penalty for drug dealers, and then we talked about respecting your parents. And we tend to do these kind of grab bags of conversations. And it's been interesting. It's been very interesting. It's there's a lot of love there, but we talk about hard things, so there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of relationship management outside of the podcast, and it kind of bleeds into the podcast. And I think it makes it a little bit better because we're being as real as we can, and having these tough conversations, learning more about each other, and kind of picking apart each other's worldviews. And if you've ever watched our show and you've seen the way that my buddy Bucho interacts, he is very into figuring out how people's minds works. It's not enough that this is the way this thing works. He wants to know why it works that way. How did you get to that way? Where did it come from?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the spirit of the show. It's me, it's Bucho, he's the other guy in the bottom with me. Our two top guys are Doey and Tony, and the four of us get together and we argue about things, and we yell at each other, and we love each other like brothers, so we can argue a little bit harder. I think than some people are used to seeing on a podcast.
Yeah. I think for what I've listened to, you guys, that's in my mind what sets you apart from other podcasts I've listened to is just like how real you guys get. It's just like nothing is off limits, and you have that level of professionalism that kind of stifles some podcasts. But you guys are all really big personalities, and getting into those real issues is really interesting. And I do think it's a cool angle because not that it's specific to video games. Like everybody from all walks of life and all parts of life need to be able to figure out how to mature and deal with problems. But I just think of like young kids these days, like in multiplayer games, like you get on chat and like Overwatch or Call of Duty or something, and you got these like kids like 10 to 16-year-olds, and they're just like, they seem like they have not had good role models. They have anger management problems.
It's not even kids on those games.
That too. Like, everybody can learn something from all ages. So yeah, it's cool that you guys can kind of present, just be real. Like, hey, everybody has these problems. Like, here's how you talk about it and work it out. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah. Definitely, and we try to approach it from different lenses. Tony's a father. Bucho's a father. I am a overqualified uncle. I've got a dozen nieces and nephews. I have so many young ones in my life, anywhere between like 1 and 18. So like kind of all over the place. And Doey, he's had an interesting life. He's had a lot of experiences. We just try to bring all of that together and try to make something positive out of it. Even negative things that happen in your life, you can kind of take those and turn them into a positive a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Steven, did you have a comment?
No, it's just one of the things I sort of like think of in my brain, like, because obviously Tony is the host, so it's hard to tell if he's always playing devil's advocate when he's asking the questions as well. But it's like my thought of the show is always like, Tony goes, "Is this toxic?" And then everyone else goes, "Yes, Tony, it is."
That's there's been a little bit of a trend of that, and Tony is definitely putting on a little bit of a show for the the viewers. Just this last recording, we were talking about this is a spoiler for our show, whatever, doesn't matter. We were talking about whether something selling a lot of copies means that it's good. Like, does selling a lot of copies of something equal quality of whatever product? So we were talking about it with music in particular, but it started extrapolating into other things because of these answers Tony was giving us. So it came down to I looked up, the top grossing movie of all time is Avatar. Does that mean Avatar is the greatest movie of all time? Is Avatar a better movie than The Godfather? Is it better than, what a lot of people consider to be the best movie of all time. And of course, Tony, because he's playing devil's advocate a little bit, is like, yeah, obviously Avatar is better than Godfather. I'd watch that any day over Godfather.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Well, I'm curious. This is kind of something I always like to ask fellow podcasters that come on the show. Has there been kind of like a moment that sticks out to you from a specific show you've recorded, or have you had the opportunity to have a guest on that you may not have otherwise had the opportunity to meet, or just use the podcast as a reason to maybe travel for some event or anything that sticks out to you?
I think that our most fun episode that we've recorded is the one we were just talking about, before we started rolling. Is our in-person episode was a huge learning experience.
Yeah,
a gigantic learning experience. I flew in from Texas. I'm down here in Austin, Texas. Doey's up in New York, so he flew into Florida, and it was interesting. I've never done any kind of like actual production type stuff besides the remote podcasting that we do. So setting up in person was just a different beast that we weren't ready for. And I think that we made a fun episode out of it. We basically did this would you rather game, and we had some beers and we had everything set up. And I think that it's probably the most fun that we've had working on an episode, which is probably unfair, because that's obviously the one where we actually were all hanging out together and we spent 4 or 5 days together. So obviously it's the best one.
Yeah, that would be so cool if one day all the GGD bros can get together and do a live show. That's the dream. We'll just meet somewhere in the middle of the country.
Also, I just want to shout out just all of your probably my favorite times are whenever you do music breakdowns, and probably one of your coolest episodes. I think you split. Oh no, it was over 1 week, but was the most impactful albums. That was really good. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. That one was a fun one. We brought our buddy Retro Fox on. He's done a couple of songs on our podcast before, and we just shared albums that were important to us. I thought it was a really fun episode. It was cool. It was fun getting like the peek behind people's minds and how they process music and what they like about music. And
that's so cool because
surprising picks too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like you can make your assumptions about people, but you really can never tell. Like that's definitely an interesting thing. Like, what is someone's favorite album? It's a kind of a cool way to gain insight on someone. So the One Up podcast, you guys are kind of a variety show, and you've got the common ground of video games, and you get real. So what is the best way for people to find the One Up podcast?
We are everywhere. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. I recommend watching on YouTube personally, because if you haven't seen Doey on some of these recordings, he is a real life cartoon character. The man dances. He does little skits. He's all over the place. He's our cartoon character on the show.
He used his bed as a prop one time.
He did indeed. I know the exact moment you're talking about. Bucho makes the best faces when Tony is saying something that he just finds ridiculous. There's just a lot, I think, to our visual format rather than our audio formats. Awesome. But we're all over the place. We're on Twitter. Look us up. We're on YouTube. Look us up. We're try to be everywhere we can.
Sweet. All right. Yeah. And now that we all know each other a little bit better, it's time for the debate.
All right, welcome back to the debate. This week, we've got Mateo representing 1997 versus Steven representing 2017 in this 20-year battle of which year is better for games, with our assist trophy being our lovely host, Kaedhen Berthelane. Each contestant will have 2 minutes for each segment. And Mateo, with you being our guest, would you like to open or close the debate?
See, that's a tough one, but I think I'm going to open. I think that Steven is a little too fresh. This is his first episode back. He's got a lot of energy. I think that I need to stall him out a little bit.
Okay. All right. I've got 2 minutes on the clock for you, sir. 3, 2, I didn't have my timer set up. 3, 2, 1, debate.
Final Fantasy 7. I see my. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. let me take y'all back to the raddest of like all the time frame. The 90s, especially like 1997. It's the raddest time frame. Saturday morning cartoons are still a thing. The gaming wars have just changed. It used to be Sega versus Nintendo, but here comes this new upstart, PlayStation, that came out in 1994. The Nintendo 64 has just launched in 1996. And it's kind of this intersection of new versus old. There's a lot of retro mixed in here. If we're just talking straight games, I've got a list. I've got a crazy pants list. It is, but here's some of the hits from it. Got Gran Turismo, the first Gran Turismo, GoldenEye, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy Tactics, Diablo, Dungeon Keeper, Star Fox 64, Mario Kart 64, Parappa the Rapper, Diddy Kong Racing, Harvest Moon, the first Harvest Moon, Turok, Armored Core, the first Grand Theft Auto, which was not great, but you have to have respect for like these early roots to these series, especially these series that have been around for 25 years at this point. I mean, we're looking at a Grand Theft Auto 6 now. Armored Core, RIP. I don't think we've seen a new Armored Core game in a while. But it was this really interesting time. There were lots of games that were making this jump. Tekken 3 had just released their first foray into 3D fighting games.
30 seconds.
And it's just the start of this new era of gaming. And a lot of it is some nostalgia, right? This is my time period where I really cut my teeth on gaming. But it was just such a special time. There were just so many games that came out kind of pushing this new medium. And kind of this is the start of these talks of, are video games art? Is it just sugary, pulpy entertainment, or is there something deeper to it?
All right.
I see the countdown.
Okay.
I've got.
Okay.
I'll take a break there.
Okay. Leaving 5 seconds on the table. Steven, how are you feeling after that opener?
Good. It's great to know that we've got a similar style on this one, because it's just like, these are some banger years, and we've got to get some lists out of the way really quickly. So
For sure.
All right. 2 minutes.
Everyone.
2 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, 1, debate.
All right. We all know that gaming changed in 2017. And one game did that more than any other, and that was Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. After that, I'm going to get into this massive list. Let's bang them through. Nier Automata, come on, let's get amongst it. One of the greatest stories in video games, and I would say greatest ending of any video game I've ever played. Horizon Zero Dawn, Resident Evil 7, the reinvigoration of the series. Super Mario Odyssey, some of the tightest platforming controls in any 3D platform ever. Neo, Night in the Woods, PUBG. And you know what came after PUBG? A little game called Fork Knife. Anyone want to floss on screen for me? What Remains of Edith Finch? My God, what an emotional journey. What a special game. Hellblade, Cuphead, Destiny 2, Div Original Sin 2. I know Kaedhen got a little bit like sexual off of that one.
Yep.
Little Nightmares, Samus Returns, Prey. Oh my God, what an incredible year. Splatoon 2, Xenoblade 2, Hollow Knight. One of the greatest Metroidvania ever created.
Ooh.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, obviously can't really count that. Uncharted Lost Legacy, I'd say tied with Uncharted 4 for the best Uncharted game. It has the best banter of the entire series.
30 seconds.
Gran Turismo Sport, Sonic Mania, the last good Sonic game in 20 years? Sonic Mania. Assassin's Creed Origins, again, a new reinvigoration, a new idea for the series. Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, some of the greatest storytelling in a first-person shooter. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, the game that we laughed at, and then it came out and was an absolute banger.
Time. You guys nailing these intros. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. There was something that I was gonna hammer back at you, Steven, but I totally forgot what it was. So, Mateo,
Fortnite. You were gonna do a plus.
No, it wasn't gonna do a Fortnite thing. You said one of the best whatever. It's okay.
New Colossus?
No, New Colossus, I agree, is really good.
This is highly unorthodox debate format.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to move on, but Steven, as always, derailing.
Let's prop up these votes, boys. Let's get these votes going.
All right, Mateo, you got 2 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, 1, debate.
I would first off like to rebut that Hollow Knight is one of the best Metroidvanias of all time, or the best Metroidvania of all time. Especially when Castlevania Symphony of the Night was just listed in my little intro there, which might actually be the greatest Metroidvania of all time. Also, I was not impressed with Mario Rabbids, so I've just got to toss that one out there. Also, mostly because Doey won't shut the hell up about how great that game is, and I'm just tired of hearing about it. Just don't want to deal with it anymore. Let's go ahead and get that assist trophy going.
Let me know, Jonah.
Okay. I was not ready for that. I was not prepared. Okay, I'll just add an extra 30 seconds. Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2. Probably one of the most disappointing games in 2017 and disappointing Star Wars games ever made. Trying to carry on the lineage of two of the most legendary games of the PS2 and Xbox era, Battlefront 1 and 2. Loot box nightmare, pay to win. You could pay for loot boxes that make you stronger in game. EA's stock market value dropped by $3 billion after this game came out. Train wreck.
Time. All right. Go.
Back into it.
Had you at a minute and a half, minute 20 when you called that. So go.
Do I get a count?
Yeah,
okay.
go.
Cool. I'm not gonna tell Steven that there's not some amazing games in there. Breath of the Wild is maybe top 5, top 10 greatest games of all time. I can't on that one. I can't argue about that one. But there's lots of roots in these games that we love from 2017 that started kind of getting their foothold in 1997. Would Divinity Original Sin 2 exist without Fallout? Would it exist without Diablo, giving us that isometric, top-down kind of strategy game, the point-and-click stuff? Is Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy Tactics, are they kind of the start of this open-world push? There's lots of elements there. There's a lot of, once you're dumped out of Midgard, you're just given free reign to kind of travel. There's still a linear story, so it's not
30
full
seconds.
open world. But there's a lot of these roots that you can find in there. GoldenEye 007 really moved us into this new multiplayer shooter kind of world. There was no experience quite like playing GoldenEye 007 at your friends at 2:00 in the morning with way too much surge running through you. It was just this different environment that I don't know that we've recaptured in the years of gaming since then. I mean, I have loved gaming with my buddies online, but it's just a different world. It was a different time.
I'm seeing kind of how this debate is really boiling down to are the games that invented and defined the genres still the best, or are the games that have
evolved on it,
refined and honed and evolved those genres the best now? But we'll see.
All right, Steven, you got 2 minutes on the clock. Are you going to be using Kaedhen this?
Yeah, I might use him at the end. That sounds good.
Okay. Let me adjust the timer. 3, 2, 1, debate.
Now, definitely there is a case that 1997 brought about some amazing changes. But what irks me so much is how overly sexualized all of the fanfic of Final Fantasy VII is. And when your hand looks like this, like, there's not, like, just doesn't go in.
God.
Like, there's no amount of lubrication that can help you there. So I can't get around this whole like Tifa Cloud stuff. It's wrong. Like, just uncomfortable in all of those ways. Obviously, let's go for petty. Let's go really like below the belt. If you play 4-player GoldenEye, it's running at a solid 4 frames per second. Like, especially when you're using remote mines, which of course you want to use remote mines, and if you start setting them off, it just dumps all of the frames. It's amazing, but so bad. And that's probably the biggest thing is that, like, at the end of the day, our rose-tinted goggles have betrayed us in a lot of ways, especially early PlayStation, because it didn't have the DualShock yet. So those 3D games with a 2D like
30
button
seconds.
mapping is so strange. And the greatest thing about Hollow Knight in comparison to Symphony of the Night is you can actually know where you are because you have a map that makes sense, whereas all you have is red and blue like squares and you have no idea where you're going. There's no like linear path to follow, unlike a Super Metroid, which has a linear path to follow. It's just confusing, and I don't agree. Hollow Knight is so much better than Metroid Dread.
Time. Are you using Kaedhen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Kaedhen.
All right, let's talk about Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. Probably literally the worst Mortal Kombat game ever made. Other IPs are making the next generation jump to 3D, and all we get for Mortal Kombat is three-dimensional side-scrolling environments with still low resolution, crappily animated
15
2D
seconds.
sprites of Sub-Zero going through here. Games Radar says, game ended up a terrible mess of ugly sprites, cheap deaths, and a button you had to hit just to change direction you were facing. And it's dated, stiff graphics, awkward controls.
I earned that.
All right. That was something, I suppose.
It's just turning into the Hollow Knight versus Symphony of the Night debate.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That's a good debate.
That is a good debate. Maybe that'll be one for the future. Mateo, closing thoughts. You've got 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready?
Ooh, no, but I'll do it.
3, 2, 1, debate.
There is definitely some nostalgia, but you can't get to the bright promised land future of gaming without appreciation for the steps that get you there. You have to know where you're coming from to know where you're going. And there is a lot of legacy in 1997 in particular. Just the amount of franchises that launched in that year because of this weird intersection of the old way of gaming, you know, the Sega Nintendo console wars, and the franchises that launched there. I mean, you've got Gran Turismo getting its start. You've got Diablo. The very first Diablo came out. Dungeon Keeper led this way for this weird subgenre of gaming that is like this management base building nonsense that we still see with like the 2-point games now. It's 2 points, 2 stories, whatever they're called. It was such an interesting time in gaming, and I don't know that we got that same diversity out of 2017. I do think that there are a lot of really solid games in 2017. You'd be crazy to argue otherwise. That list that Steven gave, phenomenal list, amazing list. But I question whether there is enough of a diversity in the games that came out that year, because 1997 was crazy. We got that game called Blast Corps. I don't know if y'all remember that
30
one.
seconds.
It was a game where your vehicle was exploding. You just had to go and crash into a bunch of nonsense to clear a path. We got, the first Age of Empires. We got Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. What a weird game. Name another year in gaming that game could possibly have come out. It was just such an odd, crazy time, and we were trying to find our footing, and we were trying to push towards the future, and we were just doing whatever we could to push towards that. It was, just the start of the 3D gaming world.
The start of the 3D gaming world. All right. Steven, you've got 2 minutes on the clock. Let's close this thing out. 3, 2, 1, debate.
The start of the 3D gaming world came with a lot of lies. Especially I love Resident Evil, but I do not love pre-rendered backgrounds. that is the most confusing thing to try and actually navigate. Like, it works a little bit better in Resident Evil because they're real world things, whereas in Final Fantasy VII you have to press select and where are those red dots to exit the screen, because that just doesn't work. Same with Mario Kart 64. The riders aren't even 3D. They're just 2D sprites that like slowly turn. Like, what is this? You're faking it out. So anyway, I'm just I was quickly trying to look up the lyrics to the greatest ending credits song ever, Nier Automata. And it goes a little bit like this. Tell me, God, are you punishing me? Is this the price I'm paying for my past mistakes? This is my redemption song. I need you more than ever right now. Can you hear me now? Because we're going to shout it loud.
30 seconds.
Even if our words seem meaningless. It's like I'm carrying the weight of the world. I wish that some way, somehow, that I could save every one of us. But the truth is that I'm only one girl. Maybe if I keep believing, my dreams will come to life. And it doesn't matter how far away from the game I am, it brings me to tears. That is the greatest song.
Time.
I didn't know I could just sing for the last 20 seconds of my heart.
You clearly haven't watched us from the podcast before. What was it? We had MGS1 versus MGS3 a few weeks ago, and Wes was the assist trophy, and he just sang Snake Eater for 30 seconds.
That's true. I remember this.
All right. Well, that was the debate, and we'll go into the judging with our assist trophy, Kaedhen. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Man, I hate to cast aside the legacy of what came before, but it's like, I don't want to play Symphony of the Night. I want to play Hollow Knight. I don't want to play Final Fantasy VII. I want to play Final Fantasy 16. I don't want to play Parappa the Rapper or whatever the derivative future version of that is,
Step on the brake.
Yeah, I don't want to play Fallout 1. I want to play Fallout 4. And I guess I'm just a fake gamer who doesn't like retro games anymore. So I'm going to give my point to Steven.
Ruthless.
Yeah, but that to say that this is an extremely hard decision and that you both did a very good job of bringing great points about what made the games of each of those years great, and I do think they're both great years in gaming. I just have 3060 Ti in my computer and I want to use it. Yeah, great job to both of you. What do you think, Jonah?
Honestly, this is the debate of legacy versus just modern gaming. A lot of people are like, no, legacy games are honestly and truly the best that gaming will ever be. Well, I'm sorry, Mateo, but I don't think legacy games are the best.
And
if Wes was here, things would be different.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
If Wes was here, he'd be like 1997 for sure, and then he'd be like, my back.
I love this Wes impression. Oh my god,
old man Wes.
Spot on, dude.
Yeah. Now there are some points that I think could have been made in favor of 1997. Let's say you're on a desert island and you just got hard copies. You probably don't want a hard copy library of 2017 games because they're not going to have day one patches, or they're going to have nothing on the disc but like 100 megabyte key to download it it's not going to work. So.
I mean, if you had brought me back to the physicality that there was with 1997, being able to with your N64 cartridge and slam that bad boy in.
Well, that's the thing. The N64 was the last, completely in
Cartridge.
box. It was the last box that we had, but actual cardboard boxes that held the games, and even like the jewel case was still like, it still had this thickness to it, and it had really good chunky manuals. Although I hated just. I despise. I love CDs, but I despise them because the middle of the jewel case always breaks and deteriorates.
Yeah.
And
those old Sega CD jewel cases were the worst, dude.
Yeah.
I don't think I owned a single one that didn't have the little like hinge broken on it.
Oh,
well, I think it's clear that this debate is tearing us apart, and who wins this debate probably just depends on how we're feeling on a given day.
Yeah.
And, but as always, our votes don't really matter, and the community will decide. So we'll have to update.
And speaking of the community,
I could just as easily. I could just as easily fight for 97.
Yeah.
I was looking at 2017. I was like, I could argue for 2017, no problem, honestly.
Derailing the excellent transition that Kaedhen gave me. The excellent transition. Thank you, Steven. That's why we have you on the show.
Nice.
Speaking of the community voting, we'll go on to last week's debate where I floundered so hard, but you know what? The community, they had faith in me. They really did. But not enough, because David Burdett winning by 1 point.
Holy
1 point.
crap.
Snipers versus shotguns. David taking the win with 8-7. Congratulations, David.
I get an extra vote while I'm on the show, so that way we can make it a tie.
Oh no! Oh yeah.
We've never had a tie. I mean, on the Discord it says 8v8, but I know your point went to.
Oh, that's right. That's
right. So I would have had to get 9 to tie.
Yeah, right. I went for Boomstick because I do love. I like it more than I use it. But a good shotgun is just so good. But like in most shooter video games, I'm a pussy. So yeah, give me a sniper. But like just that feeling of just blowing anything away with a shotgun up close and personal. Yeah, nothing like it.
That zombie army counter that he brought still just made me want to.
It didn't matter that it's like a very mid game that gets like very mid reviews.
There's 4 of the zombie games. But yeah,
4
with
mid
that
games equals 1 great game apparently.
You know what? That is true. With that, we'll see you guys in the pitch.
All right, it is now time for the pitch, wherein a handful of us panelists will have 2 minutes to pitch a mystery game to try to convince the other panelists to buy it or not. This week, I believe we have myself, Steven, and Mateo pitching. To show them how it's done, Steven, would you like to step up to the pitcher's mound first?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I have not prepared any thoughts. So yeah, let's go.
All right, I'll give you a countdown here, and you'll have 2 minutes on the clock.
Oh, I already had the timer set up, but I guess Kaden's got to take one.
Oh, sorry, bro. You could count me down when it's my turn.
We'll
3,
see.
2, 1, pitch.
All right. I think for me, one of the greatest feelings I love to get from games is just the euphoria of solving a puzzle. And the game I'm bringing just makes you feel smart in the same way I feel like a Zelda puzzle does. They're never too insanely complicated, but they do get more so by the later half of the game. This is it's very hard to I guess explain the game in a genre style, but it is a whodunit, and you're pretty much looking for clues in a room or multiple rooms. You can definitely see everyone that's there. You can see where they've been. You can talk to them. They'll have bits of dialogue, and they'll have items on their person and items in their rooms and different things. And the idea is to work out what has happened in this scene, and not only do you get to solve individual bottle episode mysteries, which is just really cool and fulfilling, the entire story is one consecutive mystery, and it's just so cool how it develops from such simple beginnings to this entire conspiracy network. But as you're learning everyone, you keep remembering all these things, and they help you in the next puzzle and the next puzzle. And it's just lots of fun. I co-op this with my wife, and we just felt like sleuths the entire time, and nothing was too obtuse, and it was all logical stuff. And so it was just a great puzzle game.
Good pitch, man.
Yeah.
Solid.
I'll just kind of jump in here. I just have to be honest with myself. I've tried over the years, playing these like book video game that's actually a book, or a game where you just are walking around and talking to people, or like adventure style clicking on things, like tried Broken Age, Return to Monkey Island. What's the one where you play like the insane drunk police investigator?
Disco Elysium.
Disco Elysium.
Yeah, and I guess I have just evolved in a specific way as a human through my experiences in life that I just don't really like these games, so I'm gonna pass.
This
I feel
evolution,
bad.
by the way, this evolution that Kaedhen has gone through is he is a top tier gamer.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a diet of only Mountain Dew Code Red and Doritos. So that's what happens.
I understand.
What do you think, John?
I believe I know. I can't think of the name of this game, but I know what game it is. And the creator's previous game was one of our game club games, and I never got around to playing it because I wasn't super hot on the game. So I'm sorry, Steven, but I'm gonna have to pass.
Yeah, you're the only hope, Mateo.
Is this actually a game? I know that Steven's been tricky before, and he's pitched like books. So is this actually a game?
This is definitely a game.
It is definitely
your wife, like an escape room or something. You're trying to pitch us on an escape room.
Yeah, that could be.
No, I actually was not on board until Kaedhen made the Disco Elysium reference, and I realized that I do kind of like these goofy, like off the wall, like puzzly games. I'm in. I'm totally in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the game is Curse of the Golden Idol. It's surprisingly, well, I wouldn't say surprisingly. It's concise. It's not too long. I think there's 10 chapters, maybe. So like literally 10 levels in the game. There's a bonus one and some extra like epilogues and stuff, because it's just really cool how the story develops. But like the one pushback I would say to you, Kaedhen, is that it's not front loaded with dialogue.
Nice.
The coolest idea about this game is that you're looking at it's almost like a GIF, and I think it was I don't know if Jonah was sort of referring to Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. So Obra Dinn.
Yeah. So it's the same person.
Yeah.
Phenomenal game.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal game, but Obra Dinn is like an actual freeze frame. The interesting thing about this one is it's kind of like, it's almost like a GIF. Like, so you can see there's just a tiny little bit of movement, but everyone has a little, you can touch on a person, they'll have whatever their last line of dialogue was at the time, or, what they're saying, and you just act as like an investigator, much like Obra Dinn, but it's only a small amount of dialogue, and yes, eventually you'll get to like looking into books, but it's only ever like, here there's a sentence here, a sentence there, a love letter, but it's not front loaded with dialogue. The first first 3 or 4 you'll smash through in like maybe like half an hour, like nice. An hour. I think maybe the whole runtime you might be looking at like 5 hours. It's very it's very tight. And yeah, I was actually shocked, because I was expecting it to get really, really ridiculously hard, and it doesn't. There was like 1 or 2 bits where I was just like, my inference was correct, but wrong because of a particular like thing. But that was the only time we ever had trouble. And sometimes it's just like, okay, you just got to rethink and re-look at the rooms, and it just has that magic of when you actually solve the puzzle.
Knowing it's by like the Oberdin people does honestly make me more interested in it, because you know, you do get those games that are kind of the exception to the rule, and like I used to kind of hate roguelikes and roguelites, and then you know I played 80s, and now I'm like retroactively getting into, you know, Oberdin's kind of like that. It's such an interesting, unique puzzle game. So
and Oberdin, I'd say, kind of breaks the rules just a little bit right at the end. If you want to 100% the book, there's like 5 or 6 just, you know, random kind of NPC characters that never show up in anything, that you just sort of have to move names around until you get them. This doesn't have that. It's
nice.
Everything is right there for you. Just look, and the answers are there.
You know, that it's short. Like I have PTSD of like spending like 2 to 3 hours in Broken Age, and I was supposed to figure out that you're supposed to like combine wings with shoes to make floating shoes and put them on the bottom of a ladder to make the ladder fly. And I was like, when was I ever gonna figure that out?
I did do one of those like escape room in a box games one time, and I spent so long on this one puzzle, and it turned out that like the answer is like you have to look at like the back of the box and look at a number inside of like part of
They went Metal Gear Solid.
I was gonna say Meryl's buddy.
So is this, I don't actually know, is this game on Game Pass? Or
it's only on Steam.
That's
as far as I know at the moment. But yeah, the price, and it's like a couple 500 megas or something download, so it's not going to take up any room on your computer. But it's I think it was 21, maybe $22 Australian, so maybe like $18, $16 US or something. But
nice.
Yeah, I think I actually have this one on my wish list, so I actually will probably play it. So I regret my previous
retroactive
buy. This game. Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right.
Cool. Well, next up to the pitcher's mound will be Mateo.
Ooh, okay.
I shall give you a 2-minute countdown. 3, 2, 1, pitch.
So let's talk cooperative gaming. Let's talk teamwork. The game that I'm pitching for y'all is it's played in a group. You need a group of your 3 best buddies. You need 4 men to venture with you. This game it's all about making money. It's about making money and gathering resources. And everything kind of falls apart if you're not actually working as a team. And that's my favorite kind of game. I want something that like requires us all to kind of work together for a common goal. I love games of that type of nature. It's got a little bit of something for everyone. There's some critical thinking stuff in there. There's some straight up shooting stuff. There is lots and lots of exploration. If you want to explore weird, funky areas, this game has that in spades. There's no pay to win. All the resources you use, pure cosmetic. You can just make your character look like just more and more of a badass is basically what you do as the game goes on, which is my favorite thing. Like Sea of Thieves, they have just pure cosmetic stuff, and that's my favorite thing, is just not having pay to win. I want to earn cool stuff, and I want to look cool, and I want to work with my buddies. But I don't want to have like an advantage just by spending more money in a game or anything. If you want to talk devs that really care about their community, this is the game for you as well.
30 seconds.
They've been one of the greatest dev teams for responding to people's complaints. They're super involved in their Discord channel on Reddit. If someone brings up a complaint or a bug, they're on it. And here's the best thing about this game. And I know that I've watched some previous episodes, so I know this is a big thing. It's on Game Pass. You basically have no reason to not try this game out and, give it a couple of runs at least.
Got
it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what game this is.
I think I might know what it is, but
I have an idea. I have an idea of what
I mean, I'm totally on board with this kind of thing. I wish I made time to play multiplayer games more because it is so fun. the rare time when I get together with my brothers or something and just play like a few rounds of Fortnite or just like Fall Guys, like it almost doesn't even matter what the game is. You know, you could turn, I think it's something like Gotham Knights where it's like pretty whatever single player, but you're just going to have a good time multiplayer. And hearing that the developer is responsive to feedback and there's no predatory microtransactions. I mean, and the thing you said, you get to explore weird and funky environments.
Yes.
I'm in.
I know what this is, and I've wanted to try it out because I know that actually on the Discord people have played it. My question is, because of the time differences, usually if I was to play with the lads over in the States, it's going to be daytime for me, and so if I'm looking after my daughter, what do you think? Is it an okay game to play around kids? Is it not too like overly violent, or like what would you say?
There is definitely some blood in this game, but it's like the 90s rule for like showing blood in video games. It's bright green, it's not human blood.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Tough to say though whether like how
tough to say. Well, that's the thing. Like I've let my kids like run around on the horse in Elden Ring. Like I'm pretty loosey goosey, but
yeah.
So I definitely want to try this out. It's always hard to. I've only got the Series S, so it's always hard to like. I've got to delete X game to then download X game now. Like I'm always at that point because people are like, oh, let's play Forza. It's like, okay. That's 80 gig right there, so I'll hold on to that for two weeks, and then it's like we're not playing Forza. It's like, okay, finally delete that. Yeah,
I hate that. Yeah, all right, Jonah.
All right,
you're still trying to figure out what the game is, but
I think I know what it is, and I think I do own this game on my PlayStation, and it is on Game Pass. So I think I already do have the game. But I mean, yeah, I'm always down for a good co-op game. I just got to make sure I've got like the guys to play with, and usually that's not an issue with the people on the Discord. It's pretty easy to find someone to play games with, so yeah, I'm in.
Sounds like you got a winner chicken dinner here, Mateo. What's the game?
The game is Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah,
oh, that's not what I thought, but I love that game too. I thought you were bringing Dark Tide, but
no.
Man, Deep Rock Galactic is so fun.
I was trying to go vague. I never know how vague to go on these. I've watched a lot of different approaches. I've watched a lot of different approaches to this pitch game on y'all's episodes.
No, that's great. Yeah, I highly recommend Deep Rock Galactic. It is super fun. I think they gave it away on like PS Plus a while ago, so you might have it. They probably gave it away on like the Epic Store at one point. And it's a vibe. You got dwarves being surly, getting blind drunk on space alcohol, and the exploration and tunneling and the puzzle solving. And you have that dynamic sometimes. You have the smart friend and you got the dumb friend. It's like give the dumb friend the minigun and just kill the enemies while the smart friend's laying down the pipe.
100%. 100%. I didn't even mention the best thing about the game. The best thing about the game is there's a dedicated key you can press that just makes your character yell. He just lifts his axe up and yells.
The one-liners of that game are hilarious. All the dwarf puns. It's good stuff.
The biggest thing that I was impressed by is like the idea that you need to work together, is because that is true about a lot of those co-op games, but it's just a lot of the times you can like in a DayZ or a COD zombies and all that sort of stuff, you can still just rogue it and like and be successful. Whereas like I like the idea that it's like, no, we need to work together, otherwise we all fail. Like I like that.
Yeah. It's possible to muscle through some missions in Deep Rock, but especially once you get to like the higher level stuff, there's just no way. Like you have to be a unit basically.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I believe that is the pitch. So. No, wait, there's myself.
Yeah, I was like, you're forgetting yourself, dude.
Premature pitch in. So, Jonah, would you like to count me down?
Sorry, they have nasal spray technology for that, so anymore.
3, 2, 1, pitch.
All right, so this game is for the cat lovers out there. So if you're a dog person, I'm sorry, might as well just give up. But it's kind of like a cat management game. So for one, there's kind of two approaches depending on the kind of player you are. So you can completely customize your cats to suit your preferences, if that's the kind of person you want to be. Or there's a vendor that brings in cats for you to adopt, and they all come pre-baked with like an appearance and like their personality and their name, and you can change all that if you want. So you've got these two approaches right away. You can have complete control over what your cats look and act like, or you can just have the fun of like getting the random cats in and like learning who these guys are. But there's all these things you do with the cats. Okay, so for one, you send the cats either out into the wilderness to collect resources and to bring back to you, or you can send the cats out in submarines to cities across the ocean to get trade resources to bring back. So you get the trade resources and you could sell them for money, and then you get the resources for crafting from sending them out into the wilderness, and you use all these things to upgrade the cats. Each of the cats has experience levels, and there's even like a training dojo where you make the cats fight each other to level up their experience level and unlock new abilities. And it's all feeding in. You get the money and you get the crafting resources to craft and buy materials to make the cats better at doing the things that they need to go to do for you. And there's almost like, if there's a limit on how many cats you can have, I haven't found it yet. So like you've got this veritable cat army to just live out your cat fantasy. And it's great. I mean, it's probably the best cat management simulator out there if you're a cat person. So.
It's a tough market. That's a really competitive space too.
I thought I knew where this was going when you first started pitching it, and I was like, I have no idea what this game is.
I shout out to Cat Quest. That's like my favorite cat game.
Yeah.
But I started thinking of Calico at first, which is sort of cat management sim, but in a cupcake shop. But yeah, that's completely out of left field. I'm very intrigued. I'd love to know the price point before I
You may be surprised to know this is not an indie game. This is a AAA endeavor from a big publisher. What? So we're talking $60 here.
What the hell?
It started out on the Nintendo Switch, came to PC. Now it's very soon coming to Xbox and console Game Pass. Xbox and PC Game Pass, and next year it's coming to PlayStation. So soon you can have it available everywhere, but it is expensive, but you get that high quality cat graphics from the AAA investment. So it's not like we're just talking about little dumb 2D sprites here,
Wow.
This is the 3D moving around, 3 dimensions, camera control.
I think I'm understanding what Kaedhen's doing, because he's pulled a fast one on us in the past with No More Heroes and doing the indie game inside of No More Heroes.
All right.
So I'm guessing that's what this is. It's one of those mini games inside of a bigger game. But you know what? I'll bite. Let's see what this is.
Yeah, I'm a little bit strapped for cash at the moment, so I'll have to wait, because it's definitely on the docket for Game Pass when it does drop, because I'm sure my wife and daughter are looking for something cozy to play.
Mateo.
$60 is a lot for me to drop on another cat sim. Like I just
cat sim.
I just got way too many.
We just had Stray.
Right
just had
so
Stray.
I think I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to pass on this one, unfortunately.
Well, you've all been tricked again. The game is Monster Hunter Rise. You fools!
Do they go in a submarine?
Yeah, there's in the Monster Hunter games, there's always a farm where you can generate resources you need for crafting. But in this one, the farm is you unlock submarines and you send them in the submarine down the river into the ocean. They go off to other cities and come back with crafting resources for you. But
of course.
The crazy thing about it is technically you could treat it like a cat simulator, because you could bring 2 of the cats with you onto hunts, and some of the skills, especially when you get in the master rank of the game, are like really broken. And if you're fighting the monster, your cats can do up to like 20 to 40% of like the overall damage to kill the monster in the hunt. So if you just wait long enough and don't fight the monster yourself, your cats will eventually just kill the monster. So. But yeah, so I hope you guys like hunting
And
monsters.
I gotta get deeper into Rise. I sadly just haven't played it, unlike World. I played one mission with you guys with Hunter and
Sadly
Kaedhen, and that was
overlooked,
it.
the backwards progress in terms of graphical fidelity from World really. Like one of my buddies, shout out Jimmy Good. Check out his YouTube channel, Jimmy Good. He is a huge Monster Hunter World fan, and he's one of the people that was brought into Monster Hunter because of Monster Hunter World. I hadn't ever played it before, and it's like one of his favorite games of all time. Just not interested in Rise. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I keep getting tempted to get into Monster Hunter because I've got one of them. I forget which one I have. Honestly, it's been a while since I played. I've got World.
I've
You
got
definitely got
World,
World.
too.
Yeah.
I've got World, but I can only handle about one single player game at a time, and I am super
fair
tied
enough.
up in Midnight Suns right now. And I
Well,
think
technically,
But
multiplayer.
again, that's why. Yeah. Unfortunately, with World, you have to play the start and get through the cutscenes and crap. But it is such a good multiplayer game for mucking around, and like, because it doesn't matter if you're good with your builds or not. Like, if you have 3 or 4 people, you've got enough people that it doesn't matter if you're just absolute
Yeah,
scrubs.
you'll
You
kill the
can
monster.
have a lot of fun. Yeah.
I think the next game may be the one that perhaps drags people like you and Mateo, because I think it'll have the quality of life improvements that Rise has, and perhaps even expand the open maps into like an open world. But if it then has, better graphics even than World in the next generation, then it'll be the best of both worlds. So
You know what,
hopefully we'll see that
Mateo?
soon.
On the next one, I think you and I can finally get into Monster Hunter. Because I own Monster Hunter World 2, and I haven't touched it.
I hope the next one we get to send the cats into space. Like that's really the next logical step.
We've
for this
gone
cats to do.
underwater. We've gone into the sky. The only place left is outer space.
What would they call it? Just Monster
Monster
Hunter
Hunter
Universe?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Everyone is here. All right. Well, that was the pitch. Thanks so much, guys. Hopefully, our listeners learned about a fun new game to check out. And with that, we'll move into the game. All right, my fellows, it is now time for the game. Jonah's cracking up. I don't know if this means we have to start over.
No,
Or
you're
we're
good. You're
running
good.
with it.
Just run with it, my fellows.
Hello, fellow kids. I'm Steve Buscemi in a backwards baseball cap. So, since
Now
we
we're
were
gonna
missing,
restart. Now we're gonna restart.
no, leave it in.
Okay.
In lieu of Wes, our resident game master, I shall be taking up his mantle this week. We will be playing Video Game 20 Questions, where I will have a predetermined video game from a random period of time in the past that's been released, and it is your job, gentlemen, to guess what the game is by asking me 20 yes or no questions. The way we'll play this is we'll go clockwise, so I guess we'll start with Jonah, then go Mateo, Steven in the background again. You'll each have 10 seconds to ask a yes or no question, and after each 7 questions, you'll have a minute to confer with each other to see if you think you have any leads, and then you'll have to guess the game after 20 questions. So, pretty self-explanatory. Are you guys ready?
You there? Let's go.
Let me get my little timer out here. All right, Jonah, 3, 2, 1, go.
Did this game release on the PS4, Xbox One generation of consoles?
Yes.
Ooh,
Is
nice.
it an RPG?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. Is it? Tighten it up. Okay, is it turn-based?
No.
Is it open world?
These are supposed to be yes or no questions, but this is one of those games with like almost like micro open world zones. It's like really, really large areas, but the entire game is not an open world. So I guess
Gave it
no.
away.
Yeah.
Is the protagonist male?
Not always.
Okay.
Ooh, actually.
Steven.
Okay. is there any town building in this game?
There's light base building.
I love that we don't have to ask
That-
yes or
that
no.
was 7.
It's okay. I'm more
That was
lenient.
7.
I've got
that was
6
7.
here.
That was 7.
Was it really 7?
What?
One,
no,
two,
that's
three,
6. Yeah,
one,
my
two,
bad.
three,
I'm
six.
pretty
Okay.
bad at maths.
I am the game master. Jonah, you have 10 seconds. Your time is running out.
Does this game, is it like a 3D action game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let me give you a countdown here. You have 1 minute to confer. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay,
I'm-
so obviously
I'm thinking it's
JRPG.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like Nier Automata or Nier Replicant.
It could be, but actually no, that was technically a Vita game. But the way that he said that, yes, there is mild
Base building.
sort of
town
base building,
Oh.
town building. Oh, or it could be a mini game. But yeah, like I'm thinking East 8 because like so like East. I don't know about Tales if that's the sort of one that those games have it at all, but that's also an action RPG. Man, other action RPGs though.
I don't know
so
what we
we've
can
got
ask to tighten this up a little
Yeah,
bit, though.
don't forget the tools in your toolbox.
Well,
Nier
you're
doesn't
gonna
have
be
it.
you're gonna
Year
be
range,
you're gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
asking next.
developer.
You're gonna be asking next. Caden's so much
Developer.
nicer than Wes is at this game.
More fun to be a little loosey-goosey. It's my style. Time's up.
But yeah,
All right,
All right, Mateo.
Mateo. Give me 1 second
Shit.
here to reset your timer. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Ooh.
5 seconds.
Is it futuristic?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
Steven.
does this feature a character named Adol?
No. That's a really good question, though.
Okay, there we go.
Do you play as the president in this game?
No. Okay.
Huh. Is it said? Oh, damn.
PS4, Xbox One.
Man.
1 second.
Is it fantasy?
Yes. Steven.
Let's ask a stupid question that doesn't help us that much. Is it developed by Square Enix?
No.
Okay, interesting.
Jonah.
Atlas.
Oh yeah, is it developed by Atlas?
No.
Doesn't help us.
Okay, last
Doesn't
question
help.
before the break. 10 seconds.
Is it 14?
Is your protagonist's main weapon a melee weapon?
It depends.
Oh!
All right, give me 1 second here to count you down. 3, 2, 1, confirm.
I have no
We
idea.
we haven't worked like we are guessing it's Japanese just because it's Kaedhen, but we actually haven't asked if it's Japanese or Western. I don't know other action RPG. Fallout 4?
Oh,
Is it not futuristic?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you
not-
nailed it down to fantasy, non-futuristic.
Yeah.
I will give you a little clue. I think perhaps you maybe led astray by the phrase third-person action RPG. Because technically it is. But I think that makes you think of a certain thing. So just broaden your mind. 10 seconds.
That hurts even more. Thank you.
I think that made it worse.
Do you think it,
That's so much worse.
is
Oh,
that
okay.
Gravity game? What's that Gravity game?
GTA,
Time.
GTA and stuff. Gravity Rush.
All
Gravity
right, so I
Rush.
forgot who asked the last question. Was it Mateo?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Steven, you have 10 seconds.
I'm gonna ask this again, stupid question, but we gotta get in the zone. Is it a Japanese developed game?
Oh,
There we go. Okay.
Jonah, you have 10 seconds.
PS4, Xbox One.
5 seconds. 3 seconds.
Fantasy.
Is there shooting in this game?
No.
No.
Mateo. Actually,
Yeah, I was going to say.
Technically, there's shooting in this game. Technically. It's a
These
vague question.
technically and sometimes are killing me.
Because you can shoot with a crossbow.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's The Witcher 3.
All right, 10 seconds, Mateo.
Oh man, this is a whole grab bag of stuff that I'm not sure. We asked if it was Western, or we asked if it was Japanese. Is it Western?
Yes. Because it could have been like Chinese or Korean or something.
I did. My mind is dead right now.
What number question are we at?
You have 3 questions left.
Okay. All right. Then
chill, bro.
I can't really think of much else. I'm
2
gonna
seconds.
have to go with. Do you play as someone named Geralt?
No. Unless you name your character Geralt. All right, Jonah, 2 seconds.
I'm so confused after that. Is your horse named Roach?
No. Mateo, No, that's the last question.
Do that?
That's
Why
the last
did you
question.
do that?
All right.
Is your character in love with a character named Yennefer?
No.
Okay, so we got a
Asking
minute.
The wrong questions.
Yeah, okay. So let me give you a countdown
God.
here. You'll have 1 minute
right.
to come up with an answer. 3, 2, 1, go.
Action RPG, third person. Are we? Oh, you know what? What if it's Divinity? Or is that more turn based?
Is there base building in Divinity?
Well, no, I can't even remember exactly what he said. He said
So there is light base building.
light base building.
And it's definitely a game where you're building.
Which is
your own
definitely yes or
character.
no, is it? Damn it.
I will say Divinity is specifically a genre.
Yeah, I know. It's a CRPG, they call that. Yeah.
Well, I just
We
mean the
asked
gameplay.
We asked ARPG.
I just mean the gameplay.
Oh, you just... What?
I can't say too much. You have 10 seconds.
I think it is.
Anyway,
well, you know what? Let's just go with Divinity.
5 seconds.
Let's just go
3,
with Divinity.
2,
It's
1.
wrong.
Time.
Tony Hawk Underground, no.
Yeah. Mateo, you go ahead and ask the final
no more
question.
conferring. Somebody else just
Do
give me
we all
game
get
name.
What was it?
we all get a
No,
guess?
we only
have
get
a
one
one
guess.
guess.
One guess.
You get one guess.
There's a game that we're not thinking of, and it's probably super popular.
Not
Can we get
Tony
a
Hawk
get a
Underground.
rating on out of 10 how popular this game is? Just
As in like
give us-
Metacritic?
No,
No, as
how
in like
popular?
give me like a boilerplate.
I mean, it's
it on the
probably like
boil?
in the neighborhood of like an 8 or something. Like it's a well-known game that has
Okay.
a large fan base. I don't know why I told you that.
Oh my god!
Is this Hades?
It's gonna be like Assassin's Creed. Why didn't we
I'm
think
taking
of it?
Hades as your final answer. I'm sorry, no, it is not Hades, and it is not
Is it-
Assassin's Creed, and it is not
Ah!
the game in question is Dragon Age Inquisition.
Oh,
I never
I'm
would've
so
gotten
sorry.
that.
Look at all you fake
Yeah,
fans.
That is the definition
the
of
resounding.
I can't be a fake fan if I never was one to begin with.
Yeah. Now, the
That
reason
it?
I chose this game is because
It's
I feel like there's a
garbage and
pretty
you knew we
large
wouldn't guess it?
possibility that during the Game Awards we may get an update or a trailer for the sequel.
I am
No.
very lukewarm
Modern
because
Dance.
I was very lukewarm about Inquisition.
Hey, that's a good game. I played it like 3 or 4 years ago, which was quite a long time after its release, and I thought it held up pretty well. But
I thought it was very
I'm a
boring.
RPG guy, so. Did you name your character Geralt?
Yeah, I did. I like the big. Bull
Oh yeah.
guy.
The giant people with horns are so
Iron
hot.
Bull or something. His
It's
name
crazy.
was?
Yeah, you can romance that stud.
Yeah.
All right, so we've done it. Wes, I hope I did you proud. I know I was quite more lenient than you are as a game master, but
It didn't even matter.
It didn't help.
It didn't matter at all.
And with that, we've come to the end of the podcast. Congratulations, everyone. It's time for final words. As our guest, Mateo, please, you can use your final word to plug anything that you'd like to plug and just talk about anything that's on your mind.
Awesome. We always want new viewers. Obviously, we're a YouTube channel. We're here because we want people to come and view. Check out the One Up podcast. Check out some of our buddies. The Spooky Tales is a fantastic podcast. They do way better research than we do on any of our episodes. If you like spooky things, you like Latinx culture, check them out. They're fantastic.
Cool. Really cool.
Also get on Twitter and bug Crystal to get back to recording her show because I miss her show so damn much.
Shout out, Crystal, Spooky Tales. I've just started getting into a weird hole. I guess that's going to be my final thought of like spooky cryptid podcasts. So yeah, I'm going to check that out. Jonah, final thoughts?
Secret Santa is underway, and I'm very excited to see who gets what this year.
Picks.
Just happy holidays. Our next episode is going to be our GOTY episode, so stay tuned for that. And you know what? Happy holidays and happy New Year, everyone.
Aw, good vibes. Steven, final thoughts.
I was looking up a song or something to pitch, but no, I'll say that my Spotify Wrapped was usurped by my daughter, listening to primarily Patrick Stump, who does all of the Spidey and his Amazing Friends songs, which is pretty hilarious. But my top 5 songs were all from the Moana soundtrack. And as much as that's really funny and embarrassing, it's a banger soundtrack. So if you haven't actually listened to the Moana soundtrack, it is actually so good. So,
hell yeah. All right. Well, I guess my final thought was also just go listen to cool spooky podcasts. I think the one I'm listening to is called it's the name of the Town Watchers Society. What is that? Something Watchers Society. No, it's just called something Watchers Society. But there's this artist called. No, it's Blank Watchers Society is the name of the podcast. What are you understanding about this?
Oh, you're actually saying blank is the first word?
No, it's fill in the blank.
All right.
Anyway, go Mayfield.
Dude, where's my car?
Yeah. Dude, sweet. Okay, so please go listen to Mayfield Watchers Society. There's this really dope horror artist, and he produces the podcast, and he allows other creatives and writers to write short stories inspired by his horror art, which are like digitally created, low resolution, like photographs of like fake cryptids. I guess
that's
cryptids
awesome.
are fake, but yeah, super cool. So yeah, and thanks so much, Mateo, for taking the time to come onto the podcast. You've been an awesome guest, and it was super fun.
So happy to be on. I've been watching for a while. Steve and I shared thoughts about each other's episodes. So glad to be on, man. I'll be on anytime you want.
Thank you. Well, as always, to our listeners, happy gaming. Bye.
Bye.
As always, a big thank you to our friend Misdriven for the music in our podcast. If you like what you hear and you want to check out more of what they have, you can pay them a visit on Twitter at MIST_RIVEN 719 or on Bandcamp at Misdriven. Thanks again for tuning in. Till next time.
Hot take. Most of those side-scrolling beat-em-up arcade games aren't good. They just aren't good.
Because they're fun to play
Wes here. He just told me Shredder's Revenge is one of his games of the year. So
yeah,
really?
Well, Wes is wrong.
I think I just played enough games that it's out of my top 10 because when I hadn't played 10 games, obviously it was in my top 10. I think it's fine. It's not Dragon's Crown good. Like if you're gonna make a side scroller in this day and age. No, you're laughing
You gotta
because of the
have big
boobs.
titty anime women at least.
You're
At
laughing because of the
least.
boobs. No, Dragon's Crown is a fucking awesome game.
I know it's a really
Like,
good game. I just every
it's
time that you bring up that
super
game,
deep.
I feel like my experience has been
oh yeah,
like
real deep.
only people that like grew up with side-scrolling beat 'em ups love them and play the new ones. I don't really know anyone from like my generation or younger that really plays them.
Yeah.
But...
I think Castle Crashers crosses generations a little bit.
Oh, okay. I've never played that one.
That's an interesting one because aren't you on a single plane in Castle Crashers? Like, there's no like.
No, you can go. You can go. It's got depth.
Scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
that's the only one I can think of that kind of crosses generations though, because you're right, because like no one likes Golden Axe unless you grew up playing Golden Axe.
And
that game is garbage.
Game. It's a bad game. I love because I had we weren't computer people, but my dad did a job. He's a builder. He did a job for a computer guy. So we got our first computer from this guy, and he had a MAME emulator on there. Nice. So we had so many freaking arcade games, and like the Capcom ones and like Konami ones especially were really good side scrollers. Knights of the Round and it's a D&D one, King of the Dragons. Both of them had RPG elements in side scrollers. So like your character got bigger and freaking leveled up, and so like they got more armor and shit like that. And like that's interesting to me. Whereas like going from left to right and just beating up people in like Double Dragon, but nothing changes about your character, just doesn't interest me. Even with X-Men, like the X-Men arcade's okay, but it's still like all you can do is 3 moves and that's it for the entire game, sort of thing, you know.
Fair.